When the human entered, the alien Empress trembled as if recognizing him. HFY Sci-Fi Story. The Great Hall of the Galactic Conclave was built to make visitors feel small. Its ceiling rose like a frozen ocean of crystal, layered with lights that shifted slowly, copying the movement of distant stars. The floor was smooth and dark, reflecting the figures standing upon it like shadows trapped in glass. Around the circular chamber sat the representatives of dozens of species, some ancient, some young, some so old that even their own histories had faded into legend. Today the hall was full. Low sounds filled the air, clicks, hums, soft vibrations, and scents released as signals. This was the sound of power discussing power. Empires argued borders, trade routes, and wars that burned across systems no one else was allowed to enter. This was where the fate of the galaxy was shaped, quietly and without mercy. At the highest platform sat the alien Empress of the Varkal Dominion. She was tall, her body covered in layered armor grown from living metal. Her eyes, many-faceted and dark, missed nothing. Entire civilizations had fallen under her command. Entire species had learned to fear her name. She had ruled for centuries, and in all that time, nothing in this chamber had ever unsettled her. Until today. A tone echoed through the hall, signaling the arrival of a new delegate. Several representatives shifted with mild interest. The name displayed in glowing symbols above the central entrance caused a ripple of quiet amusement. Humanity. They were new, very new. Most species present had existed before humans discovered faster-than-light travel. Many had expected humanity to collapse before ever reaching the stars. Instead, the humans had survived their own world, their own wars, and their own mistakes long enough to knock on the galaxy's door. Still, no one expected much. The massive doors slid open. Only one figure entered. No honor guard, no entourage, no visible weapons. The human walked forward at an unhurried pace, boots making soft sounds against the polished floor. He was smaller than most beings in the chamber, softer, clearly fragile by galactic standards. His clothing was simple and dark, marked only with a small symbol over the chest. He stopped at the center of the hall and looked around. He did not bow. He did not rush to speak. He simply stood there, hands relaxed at his sides, eyes calm. Some representatives laughed quietly. Others exchanged amused signals. A few ignored him entirely. The human finally spoke, his voice carried clearly by the chamber's translation field. "My name is Elias Verne," he said. "I represent humanity." That was all. No long introduction. No apology for existing. No request for protection. The conclave waited. Elias met their silence without discomfort. His heartbeat remained steady. His breathing slow. Sensors embedded in the hall attempted to read him, projecting data into the private displays of the delegates. The results were confusing. His biology registered as weak, short-lived, and easily damaged. Yet the deeper scans showed something else: neural stability, controlled emotion, and a mind trained to endure pressure. That alone was unusual. Then it happened. The alien Empress shifted. It was a small movement, barely noticeable. One of her clawed hands tightened against the armrest of her throne. The living metal of her armor rippled as if responding to a sudden change in her body chemistry. Her breath caught. Her eyes locked onto the human. A wave of unease spread through the chamber. Several high-ranking officials turned toward her in alarm. The Empress of the Varkal did not react like this. Ever. She leaned forward slightly, her gaze never leaving Elias. For the first time in centuries, the Empress felt something she had buried long ago: recognition. Her internal system screamed warnings pulled from memory archives sealed by ancient command codes. Patterns surfaced, old symbols, old ruins, old wars that no longer existed in any official record. The human standing before her matched them, not in shape, not in size, in presence. "State your purpose," the Empress said. Her voice echoed through the hall, deep and layered with harmonics that had once silenced entire planets. The chamber grew instantly quiet. Elias turned fully toward her. He did not show fear. He did not show pride. "Humanity seeks recognition," he said, "nothing more." A ripple of disbelief passed through the conclave. Recognition was not asked for. It was earned through conquest, strength, or centuries of survival. Humanity had barely stepped onto the galactic stage. A scaled representative from a neighboring empire hissed in amusement. "You arrive alone," it said, "with no tribute, no fleets, no proof of worth." Elias glanced toward the speaker. "We did not come to impress you." The response caused more murmurs. Bold words from a species that could be erased with a single vote. The Empress raised her hand. Silence returned instantly. Her eyes narrowed, studying the human with intense focus. Old data overlays flashed through her mind, records of a species that appeared at the end of a great galactic collapse, a species that did not conquer but dismantled, that did not rule but ended wars by removing the tools used to fight them. They were thought extinct. "Your species is young," the Empress said slowly, "too young to stand here." Elias nodded once. "By your measures, yes." "And yet," she continued, "you do not act like the young." A pause stretched between them. "Where did humanity learn restraint?" she asked. Elias considered the question. "From ourselves." That answer sent a chill through several delegates. A species that learned restraint without outside enforcement was rare, dangerous even. The Empress leaned back slightly, her expression unreadable. She felt the tremor in her limbs grow stronger. The resemblance was too precise to ignore. The calm under pressure. The lack of hunger for power. The quiet certainty. She remembered a burning sky. She remembered worlds going dark, not destroyed but shut down, systems frozen, fleets rendered useless without a single shot fired. She remembered survivors whispering one word in terror: builders. The Empress's claws tightened again. "You may continue," she said, her voice lower now. Elias inclined his head slightly, a gesture of respect but not submission. "Humanity has observed the galaxy for a long time," he said. "We listened before we spoke. We watched before we acted. We learned." Several delegates reacted sharply. "Observed." Humanity had been trading, negotiating, integrating for only a few decades. "You exaggerate," a mechanical intelligence stated. "Your data footprint is minimal." Elias did not argue. "We learned enough." The Empress felt it then, a subtle shift in the chamber's ancient systems. The walls pulsed faintly, responding to something they recognized. Symbols etched into the crystal glimmered for a brief moment before fading. No one else noticed. She did. Her fear deepened. "What do you want, human?" she asked. Elias met her gaze. "A seat," he said, "and the right to choose our own future." The simplicity of the request unsettled the room. Empires asked for territory, for resources, for dominance. Humanity asked for choice. The Empress studied him for a long moment. Then, against every expectation, her hand trembled visibly. Gasps echoed through the hall. The Empress of the Varkal Dominion did not tremble. Elias noticed, but he did not react. He remained still, grounded, as if this moment had been expected. The Empress slowly rose from her throne. The entire conclave froze. Her gaze never left the human as she spoke words that would echo through the galaxy. "The session is paused," she declared. "This matter requires reflection." The chamber erupted in shocked signals, but none dared challenge her. Elias waited quietly as guards approached, not to restrain him but to escort him. As he turned to follow them, the Empress spoke once more softly, so only he could hear. "You should not exist," she said. Elias stopped and looked back at her. "We hear that often," he replied calmly. And for the first time in centuries, the alien Empress felt true fear, not of conquest but of memory returning, because she knew now. Humanity had not arrived early. They had arrived right on time. The private chamber prepared for Elias Verne was small compared to the grand hall, but it was older. The walls were made from dark crystal etched with symbols that no longer appeared in any modern records. Soft light floated without visible sources, adjusting gently to the human's vision. The air was clean, perfectly balanced for his breathing. Elias stood alone in the center of the room. Two Varkal guards waited near the entrance. They did not point weapons at him. They did not speak. Their stillness was tense, like predators unsure if they were prey instead. Elias clasped his hands behind his back and waited. He had expected this. Far above him, deep within the conclave's highest tier, the alien empress sat in silence. Her advisors filled the chamber, their voices low and urgent. Streams of data floated between them, ancient archives unlocked by her authority alone. She paused the conclave, one advisor said carefully, over a single human. Another spoke with disbelief. Their species does not match the threat profiles. No known fleets capable of challenging even a minor power. The Empress did not respond. Her many eyes were focused on a projection only she could see. Star systems burned across it, then went dark, not from destruction but from sudden, total shutdown. Fleets froze in space, weapons silent, crews alive but helpless. No battle, no victory parade, just endings. Cross-reference again, she said. The system obeyed. Old data merged with new scans taken from Elias' arrival. Behavioral patterns aligned. Neural rhythms matched probability models long thought theoretical. The room grew colder. It cannot be coincidence, an advisor whispered. The builders were erased. They were not erased, the Empress replied. They walked away. Silence followed her words. The builders of endings were a forbidden subject, a species that appeared only when galactic power reached unsustainable imbalance. They dismantled empires, removed weapons, collapsed tyrannies, and then vanished without claiming territory. No one knew where they came from or where they went, until now. The human does not claim this history, an advisor said. He did not threaten, he did not boast. That is exactly what they did, the Empress said softly. They never announced themselves. She rose slowly. Bring the human to me, she commanded. Back in the private chamber, the guards received the order. They stepped aside and gestured silently. Elias followed them through corridors that curved in ways geometry did not fully explain. The station itself felt alive, responding to the Empress's rising urgency. As they walked, Elias' thoughts were calm. His training had prepared him for fear, for aggression, for death. What he felt now was something else, history pressing forward. They entered a chamber smaller than the conclave hall but heavier with meaning. Ancient artifacts floated in suspended fields. Star maps etched into stone showed borders that no longer existed. At the center stood the Empress. Up close, her presence was overwhelming. Her armor shimmered faintly, reacting to Elias' proximity. Her eyes studied him with a depth that made time feel thin. You know what I see when I look at you, she said. Elias inclined his head slightly. You see something familiar. She did not deny it. You should not exist, she said again. Your species is too young. We are, Elias agreed. This is not our first age. The Empress's advisors reacted sharply. Explain, one demanded. Elias looked past them, keeping his focus on the Empress. Human history is not a straight line, he said. We rose, we fell, we learned, we hid. The Empress's claws tightened. Hidden where? In time, Elias replied simply. She felt a deep vibration ripple through her body. This was no metaphor. You are saying humanity existed before recorded galactic history, she said. Yes. Impossible. Elias shook his head. Unlikely is not impossible. He walked slowly toward one of the ancient star maps. No one stopped him. The systems did not object. His presence seemed to unlock something buried. He pointed to a region marked only with warning glyphs. That collapse, he said. Your archives say no one knows what caused it. The Empress stared at the map. She remembered the stories. Entire regions going silent at once. That was us, Elias said. A sharp intake of breath echoed through the chamber. We did not destroy those systems, he continued. We shut them down. The technology was too dangerous. Too many were suffering under those empires. You ended an age, the Empress said. Yes. Why? An advisor asked bitterly. Why not rule? Elias turned to face them. His expression was steady. Because ruling breaks us, he said. We learned that the hard way. The Empress felt something twist inside her. The builders had been described as cold, unstoppable, merciless, but the human before her spoke with restraint, even regret. You disappeared, she said. We left, Elias corrected. We dismantled our own systems too, erased ourselves from the board. Why return now, she asked. Because the signs are back, he replied. Weapon networks tied to fear, empires growing faster than stability allows, a galaxy close to burning itself again. The advisors exchanged nervous glances. You are accusing us, one said. I am observing you, Elias replied. The Empress stepped closer to him, towering, ancient, powerful, and yet she felt small. Are you here to end us? She asked quietly. Elias met her gaze. No, relief flickered through the room, brief and fragile. We are here to offer choice, he said. Balance or collapse. Cooperation or correction. The word hung heavy. Correction. The Empress remembered entire fleets frozen in space, powerless. She remembered rulers begging for systems to come back online. Do you already have control? She asked. Elias did not answer immediately. When he did, it was careful. We have access. The chamber fell silent. Since when? She asked. Longer than you think. You infiltrated the galaxy, an advisor said sharply. Elias shook his head. We integrated, you welcomed us, trade, data exchange, technology sharing. We listened. The Empress realized the truth then. Humanity's rise had been quiet, cooperative, helpful. They fixed problems, improved systems, learned everything. You hid in plain sight, she said. Yes. Her armor dimmed slightly as she exhaled. The galaxy's greatest empires had overlooked the simplest strategy. What do you want from me? She asked. Recognition, Elias said again, and restraint. From us. From everyone, he replied. The Empress turned away, walking toward a viewport that showed the stars. She felt the weight of her crown heavier than ever. If I grant you a seat, she said, the galaxy will fear you. They already should, Elias said gently, but they don't have to hate us. She studied him for a long time. You are not conquerors, she said. You are janitors. Elias allowed himself a small smile. Someone has to clean up. A faint, surprising sound escaped the Empress. Laughter. It was soft, almost forgotten. Very well, human, she said. The conclave will reconvene. She turned back to him, her eyes sharp again but no longer trembling. But know this, she added. If you are lying, the galaxy will burn trying to stop you. Elias nodded. That is why we are telling the truth. As guards escorted him away once more, the Empress remained still, staring at the stars. The builders had returned, not with fleets, not with threats, but with patience. And that terrified her more than any war ever had. The galaxy seemed quiet from orbit, but Elias Verne knew better. Silence in space did not mean peace. Fleets moved in shadows, systems whispered secrets, and old weapons waited for moments of weakness. Humanity had watched all of it for decades, understanding patterns invisible to others, learning how to survive and thrive in the gaps between empires. Today, that knowledge would be tested. The conclave reconvened in the Grand Hall, where delegates from dozens of species had gathered again. The air was thick with tension, a mixture of curiosity and unease. Everyone had heard the rumors. The human, Elias Verne, had spoken to the Empress in private. He had been allowed to leave unharmed. Some whispered that humanity had already revealed hidden power. Others claimed it was mere luck. A representative of the Tarkin Dominion, a species known for arrogance and aggressive diplomacy, decided to challenge humanity openly. Their speaker, tall and armored, stepped forward, claws tapping against the platform. We question the legitimacy of this human, it said, its voice amplified through the hall. He claims knowledge beyond his species' experience. He claims access to systems we cannot control. If he is capable, prove it. Let him show power or admit deception. The hall stirred. Several species shifted uncomfortably, unsure how to react. The Empress herself observed silently, her multiple eyes narrowing. Elias remained seated on the floor reserved for delegates who represented new or minor species. He did not flinch. He did not speak immediately. Then the Tarkin representative activated a weapon system they had been secretly developing for decades. The device was capable of erasing entire fleets instantly. Tiny drones swarmed around the chamber, feeding data to the weapon's targeting arrays. Holographic projections showed the potential devastation. A single command, and countless ships would vanish from the galaxy. Everyone expected the human to panic. Some delegates even whispered bets on how quickly he would die. Elias did not move. He observed the weapon calmly. Systems around him quietly scanned, and something subtle shifted in the air, a change so slight that most would have missed it. Human technology, disguised for centuries as ordinary trade networks, had quietly interfaced with countless systems in the galaxy. Elias' presence was enough to awaken it. The weapon went silent. The drones froze midair. The projections blinked and disappeared. Not by force, not by attack, but by override. Systems that had been designed to kill now obeyed humanity's subtle commands. A murmur swept through the hall. Some delegates gasped audibly. The Tarkin representative's claws shook as it attempted to regain control. The human spoke calmly, as if addressing a classroom rather than a galactic council. Weapons that erase life cannot solve disputes. We ensure they do not activate without oversight. Your fleets, your systems, they are all under observation. The Tarkin delegate shouted, but the weapon remained dormant. Every display confirmed it. Humanity's reach, quiet and patient, had taken control of the deadliest tool in the galaxy without firing a single shot. The Empress rose slowly from her throne, her expression unreadable. Elia's strategy was not brute force. It was understanding. Humanity had studied technology, psychology, politics, and history. They had learned how to make systems work for them, how to anticipate threats, how to neutralize danger before it ever became lethal. "Enough," the Empress said, her voice echoed with authority. "This demonstration, though unplanned, proves your point, human. What is your next demand?" Elias rose from his seat. His presence was calm but firm. "No demands," he said. "We do not wish to conquer. We offer oversight, guidance, and balance. Humanity does not seek to rule the galaxy. We seek to ensure it does not destroy itself." A few younger species reacted with confusion. "Why would a species with such power not claim dominion?" one asked. "Because dominion breaks us," Elias replied simply. "We have ruled ourselves enough to understand that. We learned from our history and we choose restraint." The Empress observed him closely. She had faced conquerors, tyrants, and gods in mortal form, yet none had approached her with such quiet authority. Elias was not threatening, not aggressive. He was precise, patient, and aware of the consequences of every action. The human extended a hand, not in aggression but in assurance. "You may trust us," he said, "not blindly but as allies who prefer balance over war." Some species laughed at the idea. Others whispered nervously, but no one argued. The demonstration had been undeniable. Humanity possessed power far beyond what any had expected from a species so young. The Tarkin delegate stepped back, unwilling to speak. The weapon, now fully dormant, floated uselessly in its protective field. Several delegates turned to study the human more closely, realizing for the first time that this species had not only survived, but had silently mastered every system they thought was theirs alone. The Empress spoke again, softer this time, to no one in particular. "They are not what we expected." Elias nodded toward her, acknowledging the words without pride. "We learned to survive without claiming empires," he said. "Now we ensure stability. That is our choice." The chamber fell silent again. The galaxy's greatest leaders had never faced anything like this. Humanity did not conquer. Humanity did not bribe. Humanity did not threaten. Humanity simply understood, and in that understanding lay power greater than fleets, weapons, or armies. The Empress returned to her throne, her hands resting on the living metal that protected her. "You will have your recognition," she said. "But know this, human, we will watch, we will test. The galaxy is not yet ready to trust." "We do not ask for blind trust," Elias replied. "We ask only that you accept our presence and that you recognize the choice we offer." The conclave slowly came to order. Species that had laughed at humanity now spoke cautiously, asking questions, testing boundaries, seeking to understand what had just occurred. Every answer revealed more about Elias and his people, their patience, their careful planning, their ability to integrate and observe without exposure. As the session ended, the Empress lingered, watching the human leave. She felt a deep respect, mingled with unease. Elias had shown her the strength of humanity without a single act of aggression. That was far more dangerous than any war she had ever fought. Outside the hall, Elias walked through corridors where light shifted softly with his movement. Guards flanked him not as captors but as guides. He considered the galaxy's state, empires growing too quickly, systems at the edge of collapse, weapons powerful enough to end life instantly. All of it was within humanity's understanding, and humanity was ready to act not as conquerors but as caretakers. His communicator buzzed quietly. A message from Earth awaited him, encrypted and simple, observation complete. Await further instructions. He smiled faintly. Humanity had prepared for this moment for generations. They had studied, waited, and learned. Now the galaxy knew their presence. Now their test had begun. The Empress in her private chamber reflected on what had happened. Elias Verne had demonstrated humanity's power without raising a weapon. The galaxy's leaders had witnessed a species that was not content with destruction, domination, or greed. Instead, they saw a species capable of subtle control, of quiet influence, of ending threats before they began. She realized something that many could not yet understand. The human standing alone had already won the war that no one knew had started. And the galaxy would never be the same again. The great hall of the conclave remained quiet longer than usual. Even after the session ended, many delegates lingered, unsure how to respond. They had witnessed humanity's demonstration, a species that could neutralize weapons, control systems, and influence outcomes without firing a single shot. Yet they had not acted aggressively. They had not claimed dominion. They had simply chosen to show capability and restraint. Elias Verne returned to the central chamber, where the Empress awaited. Her many eyes studied him closely, measuring every detail. She had faced conquerors, tyrants, and gods, yet none had ever shown such quiet, deliberate power. Humanity was not loud, not chaotic, not impulsive. Humanity was precise, patient, and patient over centuries. "You have shown strength," she said, "and yet you do not demand rule." "That is correct," Elias replied. "Humanity does not seek dominion. We seek stability, cooperation, a future where no single species dominates or destroys the others." The Empress's claws rested on her throne, living metal shifting faintly with her movements. "And if we refuse," she asked, her voice low but sharp. "If the conclave chooses distrust, fear, or war," Elias' expression remained calm. "Then we will act to prevent collapse," he said, "but not to dominate, not to punish. Only to protect the balance that sustains life across the galaxy." Several advisors leaned forward, whispering, "Protection," one hissed. "From whom?" "From ourselves." Elias met their eyes. "From anyone who threatens to destroy the fragile systems we all depend on. From anyone who believes that power alone defines right. From empires that grow faster than wisdom can guide them." The Empress paused, reflecting. She had seen many rulers rise and fall, Many empires claimed territory and wealth. Most had believed themselves unstoppable until their overreach led to ruin. Humanity, however, had arrived quietly, studied carefully, and acted only when necessary. They had prepared the galaxy for a choice, and they were offering it without coercion. "You do not fear us," she said finally. "No species approaches the conclave without fear, not even the Tarkin or the older empires." Elias shook his head. "Fear does not create safety. Understanding does. Restraint creates strength, and patience creates opportunity." The Empress studied him for a long moment. She saw no arrogance, no desire for conquest. She saw strategy, yes, but also ethics, logic, and foresight. It was dangerous in its subtlety, powerful in its silence. "Very well," she said. "Humanity will have a seat among the conclave. You will not be judged as weak nor feared as tyrants, but know this: every action will be observed. Every system you influence will be watched." Elias inclined his head slightly. "We would expect nothing less." The Empress signaled, and the hall's holographic systems adjusted. A new position appeared in the records, a representation for humanity. Not an empire, not a ruler. A single species recognized as equal among the galaxy's powers. Delegates reacted with surprise, some with relief, others with hesitation. They had expected warfare, coercion, or betrayal. Instead, they were faced with a species that had demonstrated power quietly and ethically. It was unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. Elias spoke again, addressing the assembled delegates. "Humanity does not seek to control. We offer oversight, coordination, and guidance. Our goal is not supremacy but stability. We have prepared for this moment not to dominate but to prevent collapse. Systems are fragile. Fleets are powerful. We do not need to destroy to protect. We need only to understand." A younger species, one that had only recently entered interstellar politics, raised a question. "And if we refuse your guidance, what then?" Elias looked at them evenly. "Then you will act according to your own rules. We will not intervene unless the galaxy itself faces collapse. Our role is not to conquer. It is to ensure life continues to thrive, even when others fail." The Empress felt a strange sensation, respect, mingled with fear, mingled with relief. She had seen the end of empires, the fall of civilizations, and the rise of tyrants. Humanity's approach was unlike anything she had ever faced. They did not threaten, yet they could not be dismissed. They did not dominate, yet they held control over systems no one else could access. They were, in every sense, builders and protectors. She rose from her throne, moving closer to Elias. "You may have your place," she said, "but the galaxy is watching, and so am I. Do not mistake patience for weakness." Elias nodded. "Patience is not weakness, it is preparation, and preparation prevents suffering." For the first time, the Empress felt hope. Humanity had returned not to conquer, not to destroy, not to claim power, but to safeguard the galaxy. They had studied the past, learned from failure, and understood that power without wisdom leads only to ruin. She extended her hand, not in friendship, not in surrender, but as acknowledgement. "Then humanity will walk among us," she said. "But remember this, the choice you offer is difficult. The galaxy may not accept it easily." Elias extended his own hand, meeting hers. "We do not expect acceptance without understanding. We offer the chance, not the demand. We will act only when necessary and then only to protect." The chamber fell silent as the two figures stood together. Delegates watched, some in awe, some in disbelief. The galaxy had never seen a species so young, so small, hold such influence without conquest. The balance had shifted quietly, almost invisibly, and yet no one could ignore it. Outside the chamber, stars stretched endlessly. Systems spun, fleets glided in silence, and countless lives went on unaware of the decisions taking place in this hall. Humanity's presence had been acknowledged, its capabilities revealed, and its ethics respected. The galaxy had been given a choice and a chance. Elias turned to leave, and the Empress spoke once more, softer, as if speaking to herself. They walked away once. And now they have returned, not to rule but to protect. How long before the galaxy realizes they are not like the others? Elias paused, sensing her words, but did not answer. The conclave's hall, with its ancient walls and crystal floors, remained quiet as he moved through it. His mission was not complete, but he had achieved the impossible. Humanity had been recognized not through conquest, not through fear, but through patience, wisdom, and restraint. The galaxy would watch them now, some with hope, others with skepticism. Yet all would understand one undeniable truth. Humanity had returned, not as conquerors but as guardians. They had the knowledge, the patience, and the ability to prevent disaster. And for the first time in centuries, the galaxy had a chance to survive not through war, but through understanding. The Empress watched him leave. A weight she could not name settled over her. She understood that the builders had returned, not to claim, not to dominate, but to guide. And she knew, with a certainty that chilled her more than any weapon, that the galaxy would never be the same again. In that quiet moment she whispered to herself, "They are not like the others, they never were, and perhaps they are exactly what we need." And far above, in orbit around countless worlds, humanity prepared to do what no species before them had ever attempted. Protect the galaxy not through fear, not through force, but through knowledge, patience, and wisdom. The builders had returned, and the galaxy's future rested in their hands. Elias Verne looked out at the stars, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on him. Every fleet, every system, every life counted. Humanity had been given recognition, yes, but recognition without action was meaningless. The work had only begun. He allowed himself a small smile. Humanity had survived countless trials, learned from the mistakes of the past, and grown quietly, almost invisibly. Now the galaxy would see them not as a weak species, not as a threat, but as stewards. And the galaxy would change forever.